Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. Now that the new level squish and system are in full swing, it's time I re-look at how I'll be leveling from 1 to 50. This means a lot of zones will have to be retested since, as I have found, they do not give the same amount of XP at the end as they did before the level squish. On top of that, heirlooms no longer give a direct XP bonus, so that's going to be a huge factor. To make things even and easy to understand, none of this includes XP from gathering professions or rares. It's just the quests, so we know what base we're working with. Tips and tricks like that will come in a later guide. So, let's begin with the Alliance Racial Starter Zones. Here's a look at my results. First up, the Human Zone, Northshire and Elwyn Forest. Any Alliance race can pick up these quests, so they aren't locked to just humans. Doing every available quest you hear will get you barely to level 10, and I mean just barely on the last quest, in about 40 minutes. With some fine-tuning and really pushing it with a friend, I was able to get as low as 30 minutes, but there's a fair amount of back and forth travel here. Next, we've got the Gnome Zone. The new Tinkertown portion is unfortunately for gnomes only, but they do share the Dunmarrow portion with the dwarves, which is actually accessible by all races. Doing all this as quickly as I could got me up to 12 in about 60 minutes. You could probably do this a bit more efficiently than me. Speaking of dwarves, their zone is next, Coldridge Valley and Dunmarrow. Both of these zones are accessible by all Alliance races, and if you remember, I used to swear by these as the best. Why? With heirlooms, they used to put you to level 14 or higher by the end. Now you'll only hit about 11 in the same 45 minutes. Those heirlooms really added a lot, didn't they? Next is the Night Elf Zone, Shadowglen and Teldrassil. Now, these quests are technically available to any Alliance race, but we have a new strange issue. The portal to reach them for all non-Night Elves requires level 10 to use. I find this frustrating as it blocks access to not just the starter zone, but to Darkshore as well, on any below level 10, even though you can actually quest there before that. However, if you take a mage portal to Darnassus, you can still quest in these zones as any Alliance race. I've got 11 levels in about 45 minutes. Very similar results to the Dwarven Zone. Next, we've got the Draenei Zone, Almond Vale, and Azure Mist Isle. Curiously, Blood Mist Isle is also available to level 1s now, but I'm not counting that one since that would be an unfair representation with the other races. Any Alliance race can actually quest here in all of these zones. The portal to Exidar is not locked, unlike the Darnassus ones. And that's okay, as my results were not that great anyways. I got up to 11, much like the other zones, but it took 65 minutes to do so. A lot of these quests are fetch quests with a lot of RNG involved, so your experience may vary wildly from mine. That makes this area rather unreliable. Now we've got the Worgen Starter Zone, Gilneas. This is for Worgen only. No other races can quest here. While this zone is highly enjoyable for me, it took about 90 minutes to complete, and I was really pushing it. That said, I walked out with almost 16 levels. I was just a few percent short, so some gathering professions would have boosted that. Since Pandaren can go to either faction, their starter zone, the Wandering Isle, counts too. Like the Worgen though, only Pandaren can quest here. This zone is long and so it took me about 90 minutes, and I ended at level 15. A little bit less than the Worgen one. Now, we've got one more zone, Exile's Reach. This can actually be accessed by all non-allied races, including Worgen and Pandaren, right after you make a fresh alt before logging in for the first time. This zone gives a consistent 10 levels, actually really about 10.5, in 40 minutes. Now, I play on heavily populated realms, so when this zone isn't busy, you could likely get this down to 30 or even less. A good handful of my time was spent waiting for mobs to spawn. So, there's all 7 starter zones, but which one is the best? This may or may not shock you, but I actually believe it to be Exile's Reach, with Northshire Elwyn at a very close second. Here's my reasons. First reason, Both Exile's Reach and Elwyn Forest end you at level 10 for the same time spent, but Exile's Reach put me consistently at about 10.5, whereas Elwyn barely gave me 10 levels. That one was very close. Second reason, there are ways to speed up Exile's Reach that I likely haven't done yet. Plus, this zone is fabulous when there's no one else there. Elwyn, at least on my servers, is always packed, which often affects my times. Related to that, high-level players cannot zone into Exile's Reach, so you'll never have people ganking NPCs, which is a problem on my realms, or just one-shotting mobs before you can reach it due to their high level. This place is for fresh characters only. And my third reason, with Exile's Reach, you don't have to think about it. For Elwyn, I always have to make sure I'm doing the fastest route, since there are a lot of back and forth quests that send you in totally different directions. In Exile's Reach, you don't really have that. In this case, the linear style of questing works highly for our advantage. So, those are my reasons, but you may be wondering why I suggest Exile's Reach even over the Worgen and Pandaren zones. The simple reason is the time spent. You may walk out at level 15 or 16, but at triple the time. 90 minutes is 3 times as much as the 30 you could get from Exile's Reach. Those next 5 to 6 levels after 10, I believe, are much better spent elsewhere. So there you have it. In my opinion, Exile's Reach is the most efficient zone for Alliance player starters. And it may even be the best for Horde players too, but we'll have to look at those results in the next video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.